All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever stared down a massive stack of federal regulations and just thought, how in the world does anyone actually make sense of this? Whether you're a professional trying to wrap your head around compliance requirements or just someone trying to help out a family member, navigating federal benefits, especially for military veterans, can literally feel like trying to read a foreign language. But today, we're going to flip the script on that. These complex rules are actually just a blueprint. They're this carefully built framework designed to do one really specific thing, which is to make sure fair, consistent support gets to the folks who actually earned it. To untangle all of this, we're going to look at 5 key areas today. First, decoding VA benefit rules. Second, who actually qualifies for support. Third, how to prove your benefit claim. Fourth, keeping your benefits active. And finally, what happens when rules are broken. Let's get to it. Starting off with Section 1, decoding VA benefit rules. This is the absolute foundation of the whole system. So here's a question I hear all the time. Why exactly does the government have so many incredibly strict definitions and boundaries? I mean, hitting that wall of bureaucratic red tape is just the most frustrating thing, right? It feels super restrictive, almost like they don't want to help you. But here's the reality. This whole massive framework, it's not actually there to punish anyone. Think about it. When you're managing a system meant to support millions of people, ambiguity is basically the enemy of fairness. Without super precise rules, the government simply couldn't guarantee that the right resources go to the people who need them most. It's all about creating a standard, predictable process where everybody gets evaluated on the exact same playing field. Which brings us nicely to Section 2. Who qualifies for support? Let's navigate this eligibility maze. It all kicks off with one very specific legal definition. To even qualify for these benefits, a veteran is defined as someone who served in active military duty. But wait, pay super close attention to the second half of that requirement. The character of their discharge is an absolute deal breaker. Basically, if someone was released from service under dishonorable conditions, the door to these specific benefits is pretty much closed. The service had to end on terms that were not dishonorable. It's the very first compliance check that happens right out of the gate. And this brings up a huge area of confusion for a lot of people. Disability compensation versus a pension. People use these terms interchangeably all the time, but in the regulatory world, they are totally different ballgames. Compensation is strictly about paying someone back for an injury or illness that was directly tied to their active service. Income doesn't matter at all there. A pension, on the other hand, is basically a safety net. It's strictly needs-based financial support for wartime veterans who have a really limited income. Knowing exactly which path you're on dictates literally every rule you have to follow next. All right, moving to Section 3, proving your benefit claim, or essentially how you build your case. Honestly, it can feel like you're expected to build a giant legal case totally from scratch, but it's actually structured as this collaborative 3-step journey. Step 1, you raise your hand by submitting an official application. Step 2, you provide the baseline clues and evidence you already have lying around. And Step 3, the agency steps in and actually helps track down the official historical and medical records. You definitely don't have to do this all by yourself. That partnership is bound by a really cool legal concept called the duty to assist. I absolutely love bringing this up because it usually brings a huge sigh of relief. The agency legally has to help you find the proof you need. If you point them to where you got treated or give them a heads up about certain service records, they are on the hook to go try and get those files for you. It's totally a shared responsibility. But jumping back to Step 2 for a second, you still have to give them those initial clues. You can massively speed up the whole compliance process by just handing over everyday documents. Depending on what you're applying for, things like recent pay stubs, rent bills, private medical files, or even your kids' school records act like a trail of breadcrumbs. The more organized you are with these basics, the faster the agency can give you the green light. Now pay close attention to this number because it is absolutely crucial. 1 year. This is a hard and fast regulatory deadline. If you file a claim and the agency reaches out saying, hey, we really need this specific tax return to keep going, the clock instantly starts ticking. You have exactly 1 year to respond. If that year comes and goes with no response, they are legally required to just consider the claim abandoned. So staying on top of your mail and your deadlines is a really big deal here. Let's look at Section 4, keeping your benefits active. This is all about managing that ongoing relationship. Getting that initial approval is awesome, but it's really just the beginning of the process. By entering this system, you're agreeing to an ongoing relationship based entirely on transparency.
You absolutely have to report major life changes because those changes directly impact your eligibility blueprint. So if you're on a needs-based pension and your income suddenly spikes, or you get married, or maybe you move into a nursing facility, you got to tell them. You can't just set it and forget it. When your life changes, the math changes.
To keep tabs on all of this, the agency is going to send out what's called an eligibility verification report. Think of it like a routine status check. When that hits your mailbox, you have 60 days to fill it out and send it back. If you just toss it aside or let it sit on your desk for 3 months, they will suspend the payments. And again, it's not them being malicious. It's just the system protecting its resources until you can prove you still meet the criteria. And finally, Section 5, when rules are broken, how we protect the system for everyone. So earlier we talked about getting compensated for injuries that happen during service. But there is a massive exception to this rule, known legally as willfulness conduct. Basically, if someone gets injured because they were intentionally breaking the rules or doing something incredibly reckless, the system generally is not going to pay out for that. Support is there to cover the unavoidable hazards of duty, for sure, but definitely not the consequences of intentional misbehavior. Also, when you're dealing with the agency, honesty really is the only policy. If someone intentionally lies about their income, fakes a document, or purposely hides facts just to snag benefits they don't actually deserve, that's fraud. And the penalty is super severe. We're talking total forfeiture of all support. It's important to frame this the right way. Fraud isn't just some simple compliance mistake. It literally drains resources and time away from the veterans who genuinely need that help. If you only remember one thing from our explainer today, let it be this. The system works best when transparency meets preparation. All these regulations, definitions, and deadlines, they're just a blueprint for fairness. By keeping solid records, responding quickly, and being totally honest about your circumstances, you take all the friction out of the entire process. So, here is my final question for you. Now that you understand the why and the how behind all these rules, are you ready to use this blueprint to ensure you or your loved ones get the fair support you absolutely deserve? Whether you're managing compliance professionally or just helping out a family member, you now have the tools to make this system work exactly as it was intended. Stay organized, keep learning, and I will catch you next time.
If you found this helpful or want to stay updated when this regulation changes, subscribe and support the channel. And if you need the full technical details on this CFR, click the link in the description below. See you next time.